The average American adult has sex about 60 times per year, a little over once a week. This is an average, what some might call normal. But there are exceptions, and Talia is one of them.
When I was out there and I was doing whatever I was doing, and I was willing to do whatever I had to do to get it.
For Talia, sex is an addiction, and it's one she's been battling since she was a little girl.
I don't know how old I was in this shop, but even at this young age, I was masturbating. I don't know how I knew how to, but I did. I just remember my whole life, even, at the age of 3, wanting to have privacy, wanting to be alone so that I could masturbate. I was an attention whore from the moment I was born. I was an only child. I got tons of attention, but it never felt like it was enough. I knew I wanted to feel good, and I could do that. I could masturbate and feel good, and then I would feel okay for a moment.
Talia's single-minded pursuit of sexual pleasure follows her into adolescence, and it isn't long before her obsessions begin to take on a life of their own.
I started drinking when I was 13. Basically, as soon as there was alcohol around, I started drinking. As soon as there was men around, I started pursuing men. I just needed more and more and more. The first time that I lost my virginity, I was 17. He was a year younger than me and a grade younger than me. And I was totally obsessed with him. And I told him that he was more than welcome to date whoever he wanted as long as he continued to have sex with me. It wouldn't stop. That was it. I was hooked.
But sex isn't the only thing that has young Talia hooked.
There was always food. As a teenager, I'd come home from high school and there'd be no one in the house and I would love it. I'd go to the fridge, get a pint of ice cream, sit in front of the television in a chair, masturbate, eat ice cream, and watch television. Just on and on until someone came home.
By the time she's in her 20s, Talia's weight is fluctuating wildly, and her list of sexual partners growing at an alarming rate.
I would keep a journal of all the men that I had slept with and use it to try to feed my ego. When I would go through the list, I would feel self-righteous, and I'd feel excited, and I'd get off on it. The more numbers I got, the cooler I was.
Slowly but surely, Talia's sex drive comes to dominate every facet of her life, including her choice of a career.
I went to school, I got my doctorate in psychology. I loved working with couples and I loved working with people that were sex addicts, mostly probably because I just had my own addiction.
Talia is quick to earn professional success, but her personal life is spinning out of control.
It was like I was living two lives at the same time. I would go to work and I'd be this professional and put on this show and this act, and then I would go out to the bars at night and look for men to love me and pay me attention and come home with me. My life was basically a sham. I was deluded about how deadly my life was. I was having unprotected sex, not all the time. A lot of the times I used condoms, but there were times when I didn't. If I'd take a man home, we would have sex all throughout the night. I'd wake up in the morning and want to have more sex. I wasn't connected to the man. I could have cared less who he was.
And as her compulsive sexual behavior intensifies, so does her addiction to food.
There is a very, very strong connection between the sex obsession and the food obsession. The truth is that as my weight went up, the quality of the men that I attracted went down.
At her peak, Talia is sleeping with several different partners a week. Eventually, she becomes willing to risk everything, her health, safety, and sanity, just to fulfill her needs.
Probably the worst and most dangerous situation I put myself in was being in kind of like the ghettos of LA. There was someone selling drugs out of the kitchen kind of doors, so I can't lie to myself about what that was. I was basically in a crack house, and I wasn't there for the drugs. I was there for the sex.
The extreme danger Talia is willing to face in order to feed her insatiable sex drive ultimately leads her to a startling self-diagnosis.
I was a sex addict. I had no discerning capability. I was willing to do whatever I needed to do. I was beyond easy. I was throwing myself on men.
Sexual addiction is a phenomenon often known as sexual compulsivity. Some experts estimate that as many as 16 million Americans suffer from the condition.
Whether you use the term compulsivity or addiction. It's a sexual behavior which really controls the person, and it isn't seen as a voluntary activity, and it becomes a controlling, destructive sexual behavior.
But what makes Talia's sex addiction particularly unusual is her gender.
Female sexual compulsivity is quite a controversial issue. 97% of people who are diagnosed as sexually compulsive are male rather than female. But I think the thing that is different with it is that the woman often feels that her sense of her worth is very much tied in to the eroticism. Shame is the most harmful of all emotions. That you not only feel regretful about your behavior, you feel shameful about who you are as a person, and that feeds the compulsivity. That feeds the negative behavior.
Many experts believe that sexual addiction should be treated just like an addiction to drugs or alcohol. There are many approaches. For Talia, her treatment began in March of 2007 when she met a fellow sex addict.
I know for a fact the only reason that I was able to see clearly how bad off my life was because I met Roy Nelson.
Flashing of the hats here.
Roy Nelson and his wife Tricia mentor other addicts through their organization Heal Your Hunger.
I think that Talia really gravitated toward Roy as a mentor, and he had been an addict. He'd overcome all the numerous addictions, and he wasn't speaking to her as a therapist or doctor, but as one who had overcome himself. And there's a credibility factor there that is not there in other relationships.
I was hopeless in every way. I knew no way out because I'd tried the doctors, I'd been to the therapist, I'd been to the psychiatrist, been everyone I could think of as a way out, and it's an absolutely insidious condition.
Roy was just a mentor for her in her living. He helped her to live differently in every aspect of her life.
Today, Talia must adhere to a strict regimen to keep her addictions in check.
I wake up, I meditate, I pray, I eat, I say some affirmations and read some amazing prayers, go out about my day, have some lunch, come back home, meditate, have a wonderful dinner that I take time to prepare and take time to enjoy. I usually go for like a walk, stroll around the neighborhood. I do a little bit of writing, some writing exercises that I've been taught to do every day to be able to stay healthy and calm and centered and away from the sex addiction.
Talia has made incredible strides in the past couple of years. She's just blossomed as a young woman. She's just amazing.
It's a miracle that I'm clean. It's a miracle that I didn't get pregnant. And I'm very lucky to be healthy by the grace of God today. Very lucky.
What you want in healthy sexuality is you want to see sex as a good thing in life, a good part of who you are as a man and woman, and it enhances your relationship.